You're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Welcome back to the Iterators of the Imperium. I am Mez, and I'm here today, as always, with Ryan. And today, Ryan is going to be talking about... Take it away, Ryan.
Well, as I said at the end of the episode last week, we are going to be talking about Space Marines this time. Because that is a huge section. They are like the poster child for Warhammer 40K. Right?
Oh.
They are everywhere, and they are like at the forefront of it all. Because
So they're the ones that you see when you actually Google up.
That's exactly it.
This
It's a majority of what you'll see is different kinds of Space Marines.
Yes, and now the gist of it is that I don't know much. I mean, throughout the podcast, I've learned a bit about Warhammer, but right now, do you reckon, like, the first thing you ever showed me when you talked to me about the idea about Warhammer was actually these guys?
It probably was, actually, yeah, now that I think about it. It was probably these dudes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing this in a bit of a general sense, with some slightly more specific stuff thrown in little patches. But we're not getting into it too much. The main point of this is to give you a little idea about this stuff, so that when we get to it in storyline episodes, it's not an entirely new concept and it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a general overview of some Space Marine stuff and some stuff tied to that a lot, or primarily. But it's not going to be too heavy, hopefully.
No. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Colorful.
5 hours later.
Yeah. This is probably going to be a slightly longer episode as well, just because of the way this spreads out. Anyone that knows about Space Marines is probably going to see where this is going, even now. And they'll be like, oh, this is going to take a little bit.
Oh, there's just some veterans in Warhammer right now listening, being like, all right, Mesh, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Strap in and strap on. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was excellent. I love that. Oh, God. Okay, so I wanted to start this episode with a quote, and it is a great quote because it means so much and absolutely nothing at the exact same time.
Okay.
The quote is, "I am Alfarius, and this is a lie." It's a quote from a guy called Alfarius Omegon. I will not elaborate on this at all.
Wait. So he stated his name, but that's a lie.
It's the first line of a book specifically about that guy. So the idea is it's supposed to be that everything after that is nonsense.
Oh, okay. So yeah, okay.
It's a very commonly used quote whenever people talk about Alfarius, and I love that. I love how completely nonsense that is as a quote.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't. It's like a contradiction in itself, and I love it.
You know, it reminds me of myself. Keep going.
Okay, so to give you an idea where we're starting off here, right? Because there's a little bit of storyline-y stuff wrapped into this, which is really quick to go over. So we did the birth of Slaanesh and the fall of the Eldar, right?
Yes.
And that all happened because the warp got all messy, and then Slaanesh was born. And in being born, it cleared up a lot of the nonsense that was going on in the warp at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in humanity's history at this point, humanity had already started spreading out amongst the stars, and we're all over the galaxy, not the universe. And we had little colonies everywhere, or all over the place. But when the warp got all messy in the run-up to the whole Slaanesh thing, we were no longer able to use warp travel to get to these colonies or do supplies or anything like that, and we weren't able to communicate with them through the warp either. So basically they ended up in this terrible stage called the Age of Strife, where everything was terrible and a lot of colonies just straight up died because they didn't have supplies or anything like that. Like,
yeah,
it was a whole terrible time. We will go into the details of these things in individual episodes, but when the whole Slaanesh thing happened, it cleared all that up, and humanity was now able to get in contact with some of the lost colonies, and they were able to start traveling the stars properly again.
Mm-hmm.
This is about the point where the Emperor turned up shortly before this, but this is when the Emperor really kicked off his whole crusade thing, because now they were able to take to the stars and start conquering the galaxy in the name of the Imperium of Man. Okay. So, to do this, the Emperor used what he created as genetically enhanced super soldiers.
Yes. I've been waiting for this.
These,
I've been waiting for this.
that is what the Space Marines are. They are genetic
Yeah.
land super soldiers. He has made a few iterations of these guys. There are the typical ones that we see, which are just Space Marines or the soldiers. There are his personal guard that are like the best of the best of the best. That are obviously, they are made and enhanced better genetically than the Space Marines are. They are just born a league beyond them. And the training and the equipment and everything are even beyond all their stuff as well. They are called the Custodian Guards or the Legio Custodes. So there's those guys. He made the Thunder Warriors, which were a much less refined but much more like bulky and brutal version of the original Space Marines. He realized they were a bit too much of a blunt object for war and kind of got rid of them early on before he started the whole Space Marine thing. Like they did their job, and then he was like, "Ah, you guys are a bit too dangerous. Let's just hide you. Let's just get rid of you." And then he was like, "All right, let's do it properly this time." It's like making pancakes. First one's always a throwaway. But eventually, he made the Legiones Astartes, which is the correct name or the official title of the Legions of the Space Marines. They like a lot of Latin. Legiones is the Latin word for legions. Custodes is the Latin word for guards. Stuff like that. It's a whole thing. They like their Latin. I don't know why in every science fiction humanity gets really like far into the future and somehow defaults back to Latin as their language.
No, I actually kind of like that they do that. You know,
it's elegant, but I don't understand it.
I mean, I don't understand it myself, and I don't speak Latin. I mean, I know some words.
Me too. I know random bits.
Random bits and bobs. But the thing is, I do like it also in like in the medical business. You know, they always use Latin as well. I feel like it's sophisticated in one way. So I actually kind of like when people do this. You know, it's like
I also
only
like
smart people who does it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just don't understand why that's always the trope for science fiction stuff set in the future. But anyway, so the Emperor made 20 legions of Space Marines, right? Each with their own name and their own like legion's name, and then their own coloring to suit their armor, so you could tell which legion they were part of and stuff like that. And each legion, I believe, had around 100 to 200,000 Space Marines in it.
Bruh.
Yeah. So your Space Marines are like 7 feet tall super soldiers in crazy power armor made of a material coated in a material called ceramite, which I believe is a reference to it being like ceramic plating as bulletproof plating nowadays. But it's a whole other material that I don't think we even know what it is, to be honest with you. I could probably look into it, but whatever.
A bit like, again, I feel like I always reference Marvel because there's so many examples.
It's like vibranium.
Vibranium.
That's exactly what it's like. It's just this crazy tanky ass stuff. It can be damaged and it can be broken and it can be perforated and whatever else. But as far as anything we have now, it's a league beyond.
Yes.
And they carry their suited weapons, like the bolters that we talked about, the guns that fire the like 2-inch wide shells that are explosive. It's like getting hit with a brick that then blows up. And those are fully automatic guns, by the way. Like, you need to be the size and build of a Space Marine to be able to wield one, otherwise it'll just shatter your bones. Maybe that's so that people don't like use their own weapons against them, actually. Like,
that could be a thing.
They're just as deadly with a normal gun. And they also have melee weapons because they're really well built for close range combat because there's the size of them.
Yeah.
So they have like,
I mean, 7 feet tall. I'm sure their reach with just arms are just like insane.
Exactly, yeah. So they have chain swords. There's like a chainsaw sword. And it's really good for like ripping through armor and stuff. And some people have chain axes just to be crazy. If you want to prove you're feral before you can get in a fight with them, just have an axe for some reason. And they also have stuff like power swords that use weird energy to cut through stuff. But this is the typical guy you're going up against. So just for the record for the listeners, I am going to be throwing Mez a few pictures as we go, just to give him a point of reference for this stuff. So I'm just sending him a couple pictures of like the standard Space Marine stuff.
Just I'm not gonna lie, I cheated a bit, right, and Googled it before.
That's fine, honestly. But just to give them an idea what your average Space Marine looks like. If you Google Space Marines, you'll find them. They're the poster child. I doubt you're listening to this and don't know what a Space Marine is, but if you don't, give it a quick Google. You'll be on the same page as Mez. Typical boys in blue and the bumblebees in yellow. That's not what they're called, by the way. I want to make that
No.
clear.
I like the reference though.
It's a good
I
reference.
see it.
So, not only did the Emperor make these 20 legions of hundreds of thousands of these super soldiers, he needed people to lead them. So, he used his own genetics or as a genetic template for 20 soldiers that would essentially, for lack of a better term, be his sons that were going to lead each legion. So these were called the Primarchs. So he started a thing called the Primarch Project. He basically grew 20 children from his own genetic code as a template. He mixed in a bunch of other stuff. So there was some animal DNA and some like stuff from like human populace mixed in.
Yeah.
So they are all like unique in their own right. None of them are clones of the Emperor by any means. Just to give you an idea of what these guys turned out like, they are all like 10 feet tall and built like a tank. Yeah, oh god, yeah. The Primarchs are like a cut above anything else that's going on at this point. They are demigods, for lack of a better term.
Bro.
Yeah.
And I guess they're like built like a tank as well.
Oh
like,
god, yes. Some of them to different degrees than others, because like I said, they're all unique in their own sense. But they are all based off of the Emperor, who, by the way, I want to throw this out there. The Emperor is 14 feet tall. I don't know why he is, but he is.
I need to watch. I need to see this guy. Yeah, you showed me him before.
I have. Yeah, the Emperor is 14 feet tall for some reason and built like an absolute unit. And the Primarchs are all based off of him, so they're all like 11 feet tall and also absolute units in their own ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I just don't want anything to do with these guys.
Yeah, so you can imagine why, like, or how easy it is to tell that the Primarch is the Primarch of that legion, being that he stands 3 feet taller than the rest of the dudes.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. So the idea was it was 20 Primarchs to lead 20 legions. So each legion wasn't based, or the Space Marines weren't based off of the Emperor's genetic code. They were based off of their Primarch's genetic code. So he made the Primarchs out of his own genetics and a mix of other things, and then used them to seed the 20 legions, so that each Primarch would have a legion of soldiers that suit or that matched them. So any trait that the Primarch embodies, their troops will also embody it. So they'll have suited fighting forces for their own capabilities, which is quite a cool concept, actually.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the Primarchs were vat grown in this like special facility the Emperor had. I believe it was within the Himalayan mountains for some odd reason. And during this time, the Chaos Gods kind of saw what was going on and were like, enough of that. No, bad. So they opened a big crazy warp portal in the room that all the vats were in and just yeeted the Primarchs all across the galaxy.
Oh,
so
as you do.
as infants, as like babies, basically, they were just scattered all across the galaxy to different random planets. Luckily, the Emperor still had the legions and just started his crusade anyway without the Primarchs and was like, we'll find them all on the way. He's like, I've already got like... I've only got like 2 million crazy bastards in power armor. I'll be fine. Actually, no, it'd be 4 million, wouldn't it? Yeah, 20 legions of 200,000. So yeah. So he was like, I've already got like several armies of these dudes. Let's go. Like, we'll find them. He was obviously very upset about it, but that was the gimmick. So they just started the crusade to take over the galaxy in the name of mankind and to reunite all the lost colonies. And then they just started finding Primarchs along the way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run through the 20 legions and the Primarchs and their legions. Very like limited details about them because we'll be at this all day otherwise. Because honestly, we could do an individual episode about every Primarch and their legion, and we probably will because they all have really well fleshed out storylines, and it really tells you who they are. But that'll be like a down the line thing. But for now, just to give you an idea of who's who. So the first one that was found was Horus Lupercal. This dude was the first Primarch found. He is an absolute unit of a man, and he was the leader of the 16th Legion, known as the Luna Wolves. It was
Yeah,
later
because he has a wolf on his neck.
Yeah, basically, yeah, they like wolves. They were later renamed as the Sons of Horus, but
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. And for some reason, their armor is all black and white. Horus and the Emperor became really close in their time together, being that he was the first one found. It was like the firstborn son kind of thing. Like, this one's my favorite. But they had like a really strong bond, and they fought side by side a lot. And for some reason along the way, Horus decides to take. He just ditches the whole hand thing on his armor and just has a big ass claw on one side for some reason. Not really sure why exactly, but I suppose it's a pretty good weapon.
Yeah, but just a fun fact, real quick. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like if I was in this universe, that would be me. You know why?
Why?
My last name actually means lonely or lone wolf.
Oh. Well, you might actually be more inclined with the second Primarch found, actually.
Oh.
The second Primarch found was he was found on a planet called Fenris. It's like a tundra hellscape.
Okay.
And his name is Leman Russ. He's the Primarch of the 6th Legion, the Space Wolves. Now, remember I said that it wasn't just the Emperor's DNA. They also had like human,
from animals,
and
animals. Yeah.
This guy has like wolf fangs, and he is basically feral. Like he is savage. He's not actually feral. He's savage though.
Yeah, it's kind of like me, you know.
He like grew up with wolves, and for some reason, his people also ride wolves in combat.
Okay,
it's wolves on wolves, man. Honestly, it's space wolves and they ride wolves. This whole thing. There was a lot of wolves going on in the early naming of the legions. Emperor just like wolves that week, I guess.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, when Horus first met him, he basically just treated him as if he was a savage, just because he liked wolf, or because he was like a wolf, basically. He just wanted to murder stuff, and just it was nuts. And Horus just viewed him as like a random savage feral beast they had brought on board.
Yeah,
not as a brother. So he's a pretty cool guy.
Holy crap! He looks sick.
And they like wolves.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. The 4th Primarch found was Ferrus Manus. He is the leader of the 10th Legion, the Stormwalkers. They were later renamed as the Iron Hands to suit their Primarch. These guys are like are proud almost to a fault, and they're honestly pretty damn brutal when it comes to combat. It's like brutal efficiency is how these guys work.
Yeah.
The reason that they were renamed to the Iron Hands in honor of their Primarch is because when Ferrus was young, he had a thing that he wanted to go out and like seek out physical challenges, and one of them that he set himself was to kill this like a worm, like a dragon. Like WYRM. Yeah. That was like, it was metallic. It was like a metal dragon he said he was going to kill, but basically found out it couldn't be harmed because it was made of metal. So he just drowned it in lava. But
what?
I know. What else would you do, I suppose? But the problem with that is that the lava melted the dragon, or its skin at least, which fused onto his hands, and now his hands are coated in metal. But it's not normal metal. You remember the stuff the Necrons are made of, the necrodermis, that like yes, it's that his hands are coated in. So they're still fully usable hands, and he also has the ability to like craft metal into different shapes and stuff and everything like that just by touching it. He doesn't have to use tools or anything to craft weapons and stuff. So he's a hell of a craftsman.
Quick question, yeah.
Yeah.
So I know the Necrons had, with the whole poisonous or radiation, kind of stuff deal going on.
Yes.
Right? So does he have that too with this metal?
No, it's the metal didn't come from the Necrons, so it's also the metal was never really irradiated or anything like that. It was purely their genetics. Once they were metal, they were golden.
Oh, okay.
It was just technology that they had. So he happens to have his hands coated in it. So his Legion have this weird thing where like he personally worries that one day, or he knows one day he's going to have to strip the metal off of his hands, but he's like relying on it more and more, and he worries about it because his Legion are also like following the belief that metal is better than flesh, basically, and he's like, that's a problem. I should really do something about that before it like becomes a problem,
But why is it a problem though? Like,
Because if you start like coating yourself in metal to be like your Primarch, eventually that gets out of hand, I guess, and you're just a Necron. Like, I don't
and
know,
you don't
but
want to be a
it
Necron.
really just sounds like a slippery slope for a group that are all about purity and humanity.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I kind of get that.
It's a questionable like thing to start.
Yeah, you dabble in it, and somehow you just end up like Terminator. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So he personally
nah.
knows one day he's gonna have to strip the metal off his hands, and he like worries about it because he's like, I use this way too much. I rely on this way too much. But like,
My
I'm gonna have
signature
to.
move.
Yeah. Okay, so the 5th Primarch that was found was Fulgrim, leader of the 3rd Legion, the Emperor's Children. These dudes wear purple for some reason. It looks pretty cool, actually, to be honest with you. And they are
Ooh.
obsessed, actually, to a point, to a fault, about perfection. They want to be as perfect as the Emperor.
Yeah, I mean, I see it with the looks. Holy.
Oh yeah, he's got
those
this
are so
crazy
stylish.
long flowing white hair, and their armor's all elegant and polished to a fine shine. You know, it's all crazy trims and stuff.
He also have like it's not a bird, but you know, like the Emperor, he has like the golden theme as well with like the long wings.
Yes, so
on one side,
these guys, the Emperor's children, are the only ones that are allowed to bear the Emperor's like eagle crest, and they like use that as a arguing point for how they're better than other people a lot.
Yeah,
they use it as like a boast. Like, we, the Emperor's entrusted with the Emperor's crest, and you're like, all right, chill out, follower, Jesus.
I am better than you.
They're so obsessed with perfection. It's unbelievable. When Fulgrim and Ferrus Manus first met each other, they had a crafting competition, and they each made a weapon. Fulgrim crafted an elegant great hammer, and Ferrus Manus created this really fine sword that like burned with fire.
Okay.
And then they compared them against each other, and basically both agreed that both weapons were like equally perfect. And now they carry the weapon made by the other person as their primary weapon. So Fulgrim carries the fiery sword built by Ferrus Manus, and Ferrus carries the crazy battle hammer made by Fulgrim, because they're like really close brothers. They just love each other. It's great. The next Primarch was the 6th Primarch, Vulcan. And he is the Primarch of the 18th Legion, the Salamanders. These dudes wear green, it actually looks really cool. There's not many of the Space Marines that I'm like, actually, I really like those colors. But honestly, these guys, pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not too keen on the whole design, but I do like the freaking dragon hammer. That's
Vulcan's hammer is a special thing. He crafted it himself. Vulcan is really into crafting weapons. Like, he's incredible at it. But that hammer he went like above and beyond with, and it has like a crazy teleporter technology thing built into it and all this stuff. It's the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Vulcan and his hammer have like one of the best parts in the entire like storyline that focuses around the Primarchs. But it's honestly best saved for when we're going through the storyline. But I will like point it out when we get there, because there's a quote about it and I absolutely love it. But it's a spoiler if I go for it now, unfortunately.
Yeah, no spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Vulcan is the largest of the Primarchs. This dude stands 11 foot 9 inches tall. He is like a head and shoulders above the other Primarchs. He is a tank, and his skin is ash black because his planet he grew up on was all volcanic and crappy.
Yeah.
It was the whole thing. Also, his dudes really like fire.
Okay.
The Salamanders just really like burning stuff. It's the whole thing. They have a lot of flame troops. So the 7th Primarch found was Rogal Dorn. He was the Primarch of the 7th Legion, oddly enough, which are the Imperial Fists. So they actually are him and his Legion are incredible builders. They're great at fortifying stuff. So they're great guys to have around if you're being sieged, because no one will move these dudes. Right? They hunker down, you are not getting them out. You'd have to nuke the place about 40 million times over And even then, you'd only get rid of them because you'd have dug such a deep hole through the planet with all the bombs, they'd fall out the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also don't have a home planet. Most of the Legion, or all the Legions, have a planet that they call home that they typically recruit from. So for the Space Wolves, it would be Fenris, because that's the planet that their Primarch landed on. It's usually like that. But these guys don't have one. They are a nomadic legion because they have a gigantic fucking spaceship they all live in called the Phalanx. Mm-hmm. It's pretty damn cool. The 8th Primarch found was Robut Gilliman.
Robut Gilliman.
Yeah, I actually just like saying his name like that. I don't know why. It just amused me.
Yeah,
Robut Gilliman.
It sounds funny.
Primarch,
it sounds funny in the mouth.
Oh, yeah. Primarch of the Warborn. They were later renamed the Ultramarines because their home planet, the planet that Robut landed on, was the planet of Ultramar. So Ultramarines from Ultramar. But most people know them as the Blue Boy Scouts.
The Blue Boy Scouts.
They are the largest legion because most legions recruit from their own home planet primarily, and Ultramar and the surrounding planets in their star system are really well developed planets, so they have a lot more to pick from. So their legion has like far and away the most troops, but there's just so damn many of these guys. And Gilliman is just obsessed with like rules and government and doing things correctly. He likes rules, man. He does stuff right. He's good at governing.
He's good at two shoes.
He basically is, yeah. That's why they call him. Yes. That's why they call them the Blue Boy Scouts, because all his troops wear blue and they follow the rules.
I feel like it's kind of similar still to the Emperor in some ways.
Yeah, he is very Emperor-ish, to be honest with you. He'd be a good guy to take over, if the Emperor wasn't around. I feel like you can keep things running properly,
Yeah.
So the next one is my favorite Primarch. The 9th Primarch found was Magnus the Red. He is a Primarch of the 15th Legion, the Thousand Sons. This dude is far and away my favorite. So he inherited the Emperor's gift for psychic powers and the warp. So he grew to be an incredible sorcerer really early on. He had this idea that he would be able to control the warp entirely and cam it. It was quite a funny thing, actually. For the record, he also has coppery red skin, red hair, and is missing an eye.
Oh.
It was just, I believe he was just born with one eye. But you're like...
Ideal.
Yeah, just as you do, yeah.
It looks like me when I was paralyzed in...
A little bit, yeah.
Wow, right,
yeah.
Wow.
It's fine. So the next one is everyone's best friend. So the 10th Primarch found was Sanguinius, Primarch of the 9th Legion, the Revenant Legion. They were renamed the Blood Angels later.
Holy crap, a design on that character.
Yeah.
Damn.
So Sanguinius is a pretty cool guy. Honestly, he's just the friendliest Primarch. Everyone loves this guy. It doesn't matter if you're a Primarch or just a normal troop or a captain or even just a guardsman. Anyone he meets is he's just so friendly. Just everyone loves him. Doesn't matter who you are.
He looks like the king of hell.
Well, he kind of does, yeah. But to be fair, he has wings. I don't know why, but he was born with wings.
He's the fallen angel or some shit.
That's honestly it. I think the idea was to make him look as menacing as possible, and then just have him be the friendliest guy ever.
I like it.
Everyone loves the contrast, It's just,
yeah.
But yeah, everyone loves this dude. Him and Horus were BFFs.
Yeah, this is my favorite character, by the way.
Sanguinius is a lot of people's favorite character. He's a very cool guy.
Yeah.
So there's a funny thing where some of the Primarchs fucking hate each other. So, Leman Russ, the Primarch of the Space Wolves, right? His guys and him all hate sorcery and magic and psychic powers and all that crap. So he just hates Magnus.
Okay.
They're brothers, and he just fucking hates the dude. Just because he's magic. He just likes magic, and Lehman's nope, not into that. Get to fuck. So yeah, a lot of them have a special bond with one other one, and then a couple of them just really hate one other one. But everyone likes Sanguinius. He's just the best guy, and he looks like a fallen angel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool.
The 11th Primarch found was Lion L. Johnson, Primarch of the Legion the First, which was renamed to the Dark Angels later.
Okay.
Johnson grew up in the wilderness of a planet ravaged by quote-unquote great beasts. Their planet just happened to have a lot of untamed wilderness that had some big-ass animals in it that were all just like really crazy and violent and really hard to kill.
Yeah.
So he grew up like Tarzan, just roaming around in the wilderness on his own, and eventually was found and was brought into like society or civilization. But
hmm
they still had like orders of knights, like medieval type knights, on their planet, and he rapidly grew through one of these orders because he was obviously bigger and faster and literally bred for war. So
Yeah.
he ended up as like one of like the people in charge of he ended up pretty high or almost in charge of one of these orders called the Order, weirdly enough,
hmm
and then led them all on a crusade on the planet to kill off all the great beasts so that they could just civilize the entire planet without having to like, if you go into the forest, you're definitely not coming back, random civilian. And that was all before he even met the Emperor. Like, dude does not mess around.
No, it does look like it.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool guy. The 12th Primarch found was Perturabo, Primarch of the 4th Legion, the Iron Warriors. This dude also is another one that does not mess around at all.
Holy yeah.
Yeah. So he actually grew up being used because so he is an incredible tactician and he's obviously incredibly smart. Primarch's intelligence is like well beyond the average person. But he had a weird like talent for like tactics and also inventing and like designing stuff.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, his like asshole adoptive father basically used them for war, which he wasn't into. He just wanted to be like an architect and build like civil stuff. But instead, he
Okay.
kept being like, "Make new war engines," and he was like, "Fine, Dad, God." And it was the whole thing. It was
Okay.
terrible. He was not into it at all. But you know, he liked building shit, so there you go.
Yeah.
A lot like a lot like Rogue Aldorn and his dudes that like building stuff. The 13th Primarch found was Mortarion. This guy is also one of my favorites. He is a pretty cool dude. I could only find a picture of his mini for this one for you, by the way.
Mhm.
But
Ooh.
yeah, this is dude. Honestly, these guys love poison. They grew up with like their home planet. The atmosphere is toxic,
Yeah.
so it's just a big thing for them. Like they live their lives in poisonous air, and you know they kind of grew up with that, and it just became a whole thing for them. So their
I
guys
feel like
are all like poison is severely wrapped into their people. But say they need to conquer a planet, this atmosphere is shitty. Who do you send? Send in these guys. He is part of the 14th Legion that were originally called the Dusk Raiders because they had a gimmick of they would wait till nighttime and then go attack their enemies.
Mhm.
But they were later renamed the Death Guard. And for some reason, he looks like death. He looks like the Grim Reaper.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, he actually wields a scythe as a weapon.
Yeah. I was about to say that, Ryan.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Possibly one of my favorite details about Mortarion and his Legion is he has like a special group of guards, like bodyguards that follow him around, and they're all like shrouded in mystery and no one knows who they are because they're basically identityless. But there's like an idea of where they come from, and it's that he will basically just pretend someone died in a war they didn't die in. So after a battle, he'll just like grab someone and be like, "You're my new guard," and then he'll just write their name on the list of people that died, and then just puts them in the weird cloak thing so that no one knows who they are anymore. Just has them follow him around. It's
Like
pretty
a
cool,
boss.
actually. So the 14th Primarch found was Lorgar, Primarch of the 17th Legion, the Imperial Heralds, and they were later renamed to the Word Bearers. Now, these guys, their original planet was a really religious planet, and they kind of kept that going because when the Emperor turned up, they basically just decided to worship him instead. And like number one rule with Emperor is no religion.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
Yeah, that's like rule one of the Imperial man: no religion.
Yeah.
But
Hit him with a brick.
exactly, yeah. But these dudes, they worship the Emperor rather than like following what he says out of like fear and respect. They're like, nah, God. God Emperor, which does cause them some problems, but that's a whole issue for later on. Also, just among some of the legions, so obviously you have like ranks among the legions, like captains and stuff like sergeants and generals and all that kind of stuff, right? Some of the legions use different titles for those things. These guys have chaplains, so they actually use like religious terminology among their official rankings as well. They don't even hide it. Like, they know what they're doing and they just go for it. Like, I don't know how they get away for really any length of time, but they manage it somehow. The 15th Primarch found was Jagatai Khan, Primarch of the 5th Legion, the Star Hunters, and they were later renamed the White Scars. These dudes love to go fast, right? Like, they started off in like a nomadic planet, or is it nomadic? I guess tribal is more the term. They like started off with horses because they just loved going fast, and then when they like met the Emperor and got all their like, Space Marine stuff, they just got like space bikes. So they ride around battlefields on these like these crazy jet bikes that drive at like Mach 5 and just murder people left, right, and center. They are an absolute force to be reckoned with. And they have this ritual where they will give their Marines a scar, so that that explains the name, the White Scars. But the idea was it was something that every one of the people in that legion would have in common to bond them all together. So every member of the White Scars has a scar to show them as a member of the White Scars and kind of foster brotherhood, I guess, amongst them.
Like gang tattoos, right?
Yes, it's exactly the same concept, yeah. The next one is also one of my favourite ones. The 16th
You have so many favorites.
I've got a few. There's 20 of these dudes, so some of them have to be favourites. The 16th Primarch found was Conrad Kurz, Primarch of the 8th Legion, the Night Lords. So, this guy is like a crazy version of Batman.
I can see the aesthetics, yeah.
Yeah. So the planet they grew up on, or he grew up on, I guess, was just like all darkness all the time. And it was just rife with crime. There was like murder and robbing and sexual crimes and everything else going on all the time. I guess darkness breeds depression and misery, so the people may as well join in and help that. And Conrad, when he was young, just decided that he was sick of that shit and just started hunting down and murdering criminals. And gradually it improved because everyone was afraid to be a criminal now because this guy will come and murder you in the night. He was affectionately nicknamed the Night Hunter. Also, he just really needs a hug. Like, that dude is big time depressed.
Oh, so it's like me, yeah?
Yeah, big time, honestly. He just really needs a cuddle.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No, I would not be the one volunteering, but like, Vulcan's bigger than him. You could give him a hug, fuck. The 17th Primarch found was Angron, Primarch of the 12th Legion, the Warhounds, and they were later renamed the World Eaters because they are brutally savage. They destroy anything and everything that they can possibly get their hands on. Angron grew up on a planet that for some reason loved gladiatorial combat, and obviously he ended up as a gladiator. And they put these things called butcher's nails in his head that are like a little metal insert thing you can put in someone's skull that affects their brain. And what it does is it makes them really angry, but like it makes them feel intense pain unless they are being angry or violent. So, it was to encourage the gladiators, but they did this to this guy, even though he was like an absolute unit of a man, standing several feet taller than anyone else they had, and thought, this is a perfectly safe option. This won't go badly for us at all. And obviously it just went horribly wrong for them from then on, but it makes him a hell of a warrior. But he made it a mission to make his legion produce and like fit butcher's nails into all of his troops. So all of his legion also have butcher's nails. So they're all just insanely savage, brutal, feral warriors that just destroy anything and everything you point them at.
Damn.
Yeah, they're a whole thing. I'm not a huge fan of him, to be honest with you. But they get the job done.
I mean, I kind of like the design. I kind of.
He's a cool looking guy because he's kind of got that whole like old school Roman esque design to his armor
Mm-hmm.
because it's from like the gladiatorial stuff. All their armor
Yeah.
tends to kind of take a feel of like where they're from in a way or something like that.
Yeah, I get it. But I do like the story with like he's angry and all the kind of stuff because not because it's a choice. He just is.
Yeah,
Like he's not evil just to be evil, that kind of thing. But because he, inherently just is now.
Yes, aye. But I like that there's like a explanation behind a lot of this stuff that's actually a good one.
Yeah.
Although the name's a bit on the nose, Angron, the angry guy, and you're like, oh, of course. So the 18th Primarch found was Corvus Corax. He is actually the one I know the least about, unfortunately.
Huh.
He was Primarch of the 19th Legion, the Raven Guard, as you can tell by the fact that for some reason in this picture he's holding 2 ravens.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a reason for that or if it was just someone decided to put him with ravens. But
I mean, he looks like a big bird.
he honestly is basically an edgy emo teen. Just as a giant, like, monstrous warrior. He is what every angsty emo teen thinks they are.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't know his backstory, so I do need to look into him. If we're going, or when we get to a point that we want to start doing like episodes based around each Primarch, I would like to do him first so that I can learn about him as soon as possible, to be honest.
Yes.
And the last one, the 20th Primarch, the last Primarch found, Primarch of the 20th Legion, is Alfarius Omegon. This is the guy that quote from the start is from. He was a Primarch of the Ghost Legion, which was later renamed the Alpha Legion after Alfarius. This guy is a mystery wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in 12 more layers of nonsense. Like, no one knows anything is like that may or may not be true about this guy. Like, allegedly, when he was first found, he broke onto Horus's flagship, tried to assassinate him, and then luckily Horus realized the guy that was trying to kill him was a Primarch.
Yeah.
Yeah, his whole thing. He seems allegedly has this ability to like look like other people. So it's really common for him to like walk among his own legion or among other legions, and no one realizes he's a Primarch.
Why? Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Just let me know if it gets annoying. But I'm gonna reference Marvel here with Loki.
Yeah, he honestly has a good Loki vibe about him. He's like all
Yeah.
about subterfuge and stuff like that, so it really suits him.
Also, the green with the arm. I'm getting vibes here. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
staff.
Yeah. Okay, so you may have noticed that I said he was the last one found, and we also skipped Legion 3 and 19.
Yes, I did notice that, and I would want to question it, but I actually saw through that and thought you had something to come up with.
Yes.
But I was about to mention it. Yes.
Yes. So we have listed 18 Primarchs. There is a reason that 3 and 18 are actually not listed. It's because we don't know anything about them.
Oh.
Within lore, right, within the universe 40K, they were found and they did get their legions. But between that point, like them being found and like the time that the storyline for this stuff really kicks off, they did something so unbelievably deniably wrong that they were eradicated and all record of them was expunged from Imperial record, and then all information about them was censored. So no one knows anything about them. There is no information about them because of something they did. There are a bunch of like little subtle references to them. There is a point where one of the Primarchs makes a comment about it where they kind of like sideways mention that every time one of them was expunged, these Ultramarines bolstered their numbers. So that makes it sound like the Primarch was taken care of, and then they were like, all right, well, we're not wasting the troops, and put them in other legions, which would explain why there's so many goddamn Ultramarines. But actually, they've really fleshed out the story as to why there's so many Ultramarines. And also, they actually have an organ inside them, which is, it's a 2-part thing that's referred to as the gene seed, which is actually based genetically off of their Primarch, which makes them unique to that legion. And they can't replace that by the time they're fully grown Marines. You have to do it when they're young and you're first making them. Otherwise, they don't have time to grow into the new genetics. So if you can't swap it when they're adults. So you would have a bunch of Space Marines within these other legions that didn't suit the legions. So I think that rumor, that kind of hint as to a bit of a kind of tip about it, is totally bogus. I think it's just something they wrote at the time and then actually retconned later. But there's a bunch of little half sideways mentions of them like that, but there's no actual definite information about them.
No.
But that's the in-lore reason. Would you like to know the out-of-lore reason?
Give it to me.
The out-of-lore reason is that when they were making the game and they were making the backstories for all the legions, obviously they all have very specific color schemes and stuff like that for each legion, so that you can tell them apart. But they left 2 legions out so that the players could design their own legion and write their own backstories and then play as them in the game, claiming they are the 3rd or 18th legion. Which is actually a really good way of doing it, because it really takes away the limitations of are on the players of what they can do with designing their own guys. So it was more or less for that, and then they wrote in lore reasons. So these were the main things I wanted to run through with this stuff. So I wanted to give you an idea of what Space Marines were, and the Primarchs are a huge part of what goes on with them. So the legions obviously all kind of suit their Primarchs. So the Death Guard, because Mortarian's all about poison and death, and they're all about poison and death and stuff. And Angron's guys are all angry like Angron. The Salamanders are all like fire like Vulcan, all that kind of stuff.
And Magnus the Red.
Yeah, and they're all magic. Stuff like that. So, honestly, to go into much more detail about this, there is a better suited way to do more of it. So if we want to go into how Space Marines are made and stuff like that, that's a whole episode we can do in itself. And then a lot of this is we can do a storyline about each Primarch and their subsequent legion, and also there is a big humanity storyline. But now you know who we're talking about when we get into the humanity storylines, because these guys are all major players in that story. I am excited to do the Alfarius storyline at some point, just him as a character, because there is a book specifically about him and his backstory and stuff that actually cleared up a lot of the nonsense about him, and it is unbelievably good. It is a great book. I absolutely love it. It's the only one that's Primarch specific that I've read, other than Fulgrim, but Fulgrim's one is heavily tied into other storylines, so I read that in line with them rather than to learn about Fulgrim.
Yeah.
It also doesn't really cover Fulgrim's background at all, actually. What do you think? Who's your favorite, or who are your favorites? Who's sticking out to you?
My favorite is either the biggest, which I believe was Magnus the Red.
Vulcan is the biggest one.
Is Vulcan the biggest one?
The one in green, yeah, with the black skin. And
I think my favorite is probably gonna be the one. What was the King of Hell? I said.
Oh, Sanguinius.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sanguinius. I feel like that's just a typical answer that people say, anyways. But I really do like the design. I think it's pretty cool.
I believe he is one of the usual classics that people like.
Yeah.
He's another one that I don't know much about the backstory for, unfortunately, but I do know his storyline within the bulk humanity storyline, and it is absolutely incredible. He is an absolute hero of a man.
Yeah.
Or demigod.
Very nice.
And he's just such a friendly guy. There's a couple of points in the first few books of some of the main storylines that he's hanging around. He departs quite early on because he's not around for what goes on at that point. But there's one of the captains is being invited in to this big secret meeting with a Primarch, and he's basically just nervous as all hell and terrified going in, and just Sanguinius appears behind him and is like, "Nah, man, it's cool. You got this." Just totally puts him at ease with a really friendly conversation. It's great. Such a good guy.
Yeah.
While we're here, do you have any questions about anything we've went over today? Anything you want filled in?
No, I'm actually kind of looking forward to getting more into these guys, getting some backstory on them. But obviously, like you said, it would take too much time to do in-depth like stories to each individual we talked about today.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. This actually got me a bit more hyped. Let me say it like that. I really do like this.
Yeah, see, this is the part that I thought would really grab you into it. The Primarchs are like early on in learning about 40k. The Primarchs are like the first time you get to put like a name to a face with any like weight behind it, and it's I don't know. I feel like it gives a sense of weight to learning about this stuff because you're like, all right, now I have people that I actually give a crap about. Let's see what they do. Like, I want to hear about Lehman Russ and his wolves of Fenris murdering people, stuff like that. I want to hear about Angron and his chain axes murdering people like a nut job. I want to hear about Vulcan's crazy teleporting hammer. Like, there's a lot goes on here, but honestly, it just gets better the more you get into these guys.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's so much after we learn about these guys too that is equally good. But these guys are such like a really good point early on for grabbing you into it. Because you're like, all right, now I have something that I'm like excited about for the storyline.
Yeah.
Also, this really like fills a bit of the gap because when we get to the storyline about like humanity and stuff like that, there isn't a lot in the run into it that we have to talk about now because there's like a bit before with the Emperor turning up initially and then making his Thunder Warriors and then getting rid of the Thunder Warriors and then making the Primarchs and Legions. And then there's all the stuff after it, but there's a big chunk in the middle there that we don't have to go over now, which is great because you know about making them and then, you know, finding them all bit by bit, which is great. But we will flesh out a bit as we go and then we can do individual episodes about each one and get the full story about them all.
Yes,
they're all
I'm
cool
looking
guys.
forward to it.
They're all
I'm
cool
looking
guys.
forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But I think we can leave off there for today.
All right. Thank you guys for listening and tuning next week for more Iterators of the Imperium.
Bye, guys.